So see a few people start to pile in here. Late day Q&A here for trade ideas. Open forum, so fire away those questions. And of course, I give it a minute here for other people to pile in. And if nothing else, I'll make it up as I go along. Try to keep it interesting, keep it moving for everybody. All right. So not seeing too many people yet here. But again, it's open forum, here for Q&A about the scanners, what we can scan for, what our capabilities are, who we are, what we do, how to build something. So, fire away those questions. I'll give it another minute here. If we get no questions, and I'll start to plug away. We'll start going over Holly, I guess. All right, so um, yeah, let's dive into Holly a little bit here. Also trying to make sure that the stream looks good for you guys on your end. So left the windows a little wider today. Kept the compare count windows off. Can Alpha Predator be used as a swing scanner? So Joe, anything can be used as anything. It comes to data interpretation is what I would say. There are people that I have shared what I use for an evening scanner with that don't understand why I see my evening scanner as an evening scanner. So it's kind of, depends on what your trading plan is, what your time frame is. I will say, as far as um, Alpha Predator goes, it's looking at some, faster moving stocks. So, that might be something you want to keep in mind um, when you're looking at it, where you're setting your stop, where you're setting, how you're managing your risk on the way up. I'm not huge always into targets necessarily. Sorry, I'm looking at STNG here, thinking about taking a position in that. But that's my advice to you, Joe. Anything can be used as anything, but how does it fit into what your trading plan is for swinging stocks? So, and it's not like everything that comes out of every scanner is going to be a viable trade. Of course, you got to look at the whole picture here. So, sorry, just clicking around a few things here that come through late day alerts for me, and kind of missed an entry on my alert here for Sting while I was away from my desk for a moment here. And, the first commandment, thou shalt not chase, or is that the second one? I'm not sure. So, but here, just to give you an example here, what I'm talking about. So on my evening scanner, and I'll share a link to it here as well. So let me share the link for it first, then I'll load it. So there's a link. This is what I use to scan in the evening for. These are more swing ideas in general for me. Although I take some day trades out of there, but I look for things that are interesting going into the next day. And so it's a very simple scan. We right click, we come to configure, Windows specific filter. Let's clean that up. And I'm looking at stocks in between $4 and $30. Relative volume of one traded at least 750,000 shares today, 75% above the low of the 20-day range and 75% above the low of today's range. And I do that because I want to see stocks that are closing strong and are strong over the last 20 days, breaking out of that 20-day range. And what I tried to look for in those is, let's see if we can find kind of the let's call it a horseshoe up slash cup and handle pattern that I like to look at. So even STNG, it's been coming through the scanner actually recently. So I'll bring over my drawing tool. And what I'm trying to find in this is things that are doing stuff like this here. So albeit slightly, this low is slightly lower than that low. And so you get your cup and your handle like that. It's not the best cup and handle example, but that's the idea behind what I'm looking for with this. You're going to find stuff that's very extended too that might run the next day. There's been plenty of those that have come through too. So I could cap this by putting a position and range filter maximum on the day, so I don't see stuff that's closing way above the low of the day's range. So it's not, going into a chase mode, if you will, for the scan. But I want to see everything that comes through. I want to see what the action was, and I like to look at all charts anyways, regardless if I'm going to trade it the next day or not. So that's where the data interpretation comes to. So I had shared this scan with someone a few months ago, who is more of a day trader, and they didn't understand why I thought it was a swing scan. And I get why they saw it as a day trading scan. It just that's not the way I interpreted the data that was coming through it. So that's what it really comes down to, is what your trading plan is. What is your written set of rules for why you would swing a stock? So um, that's my 2 cents that goes for there, Joe. I can't tell you what makes a swing trade. You know what I mean? You have to decide that. Just like I have to decide, do I want to chase this 10 cents past where I want to enter it? So we're gonna just let that hang out there. It's a funny market, although shippers, banks, and natural gas stocks have been the darlings of the last 10 days, I would say, and a lot of those coming through this scan here. Um, Not sure that I want to get into anything tomorrow being Friday and all kinds of speak. You're welcome, Joan. It's an open forum, so I'm just going to create content. You know what I mean? I'm going to talk away and drone on if nobody's asking questions or chiming in with anything, And, as I tell people, I'm no CMT, I'm no chart expert or anything like that. I see things, I always say that I have a biased eye to that kind of cup and handle horseshoe up pattern. I probably see it more than other people do because I want to see it. So that just because I'm seeing something doesn't mean it's even there. That's why, I like to wait. I like to hang out and, like I said, not chase. So that's as far as that goes. So again, it's open forum. I can see it's a real light crowd today compared to what I had the last few days, unfortunately. But we press on all the same. And again, so anybody feel free in the questions panel, interrupt me at any point. I'm going to get rid of that and I'll do a little diving into Holly here. Usually you like to start with the winners. Let's start with some losers and take a look at some things here in the losers. So not all losers are created equal. Not all winners are created equal. So the first thing I'll start with is a loser that was never going to be a winner, unfortunately, here, as far as the original alert goes. So we're looking at GROM. The original signal comes in at 9:50 and 58 seconds Eastern time. We get that at 3:68, and it's a stop out. And that stop out happened actually pretty quick. Did I talk about Holly long? Nope. I'm just kind of diving into Holly right now. And like I said, if anybody can feel free to interrupt me. I'm just creating content because, I really want this to be an open forum for people to ask questions, to learn how to use the software. But I'm not going to sit here also with dead air for an hour either. And, I'm going to keep it moving the best that I can. So, like I said, just diving right into Holly here. I'm going to start with losers and, second mouse gets the cheese kind of things, trade management, and why man and machine are a better combination than man by themselves or machine by itself. So again, GROM, it's a stop out. It happened fast. It happened early. All right. So if we were to look at this and we saw the signal come in, we know right away that we're looking at something that's really volatile, can do anything one way or the other. I mean, look at what it did the day before. That's massive, massive volume. That's not normal. The last time we had anything relatively close to that volume is way back here in July. And obviously that volume is nothing like what we saw yesterday and today. So we know that's something that odds are you shouldn't just be diving right into it anyways. Let's let it set up a little bit. And it was a tight stop on that. We get a stop price of, I believe, 384, right? Yes, 384. Sorry. Let's zoom in on this 15-minute chart here, and we can see right on the opening candle that she made the trade. She gets stopped out, and she continues to stay stopped out. All right. She came down here and touched into the profit just a little bit here for a few seconds, but this trade never set up well for us. All right. And so the algorithm was satisfied from Holly, but we could see going into the close yesterday, we were already trending up strong after this initial pop and sell off. All right. So we already know we're trending strong up. So it might not be the best idea to jump right in one way or the other. This looked like it was a level of interest that was going to go on right here, and it seemed to be that level of interest. While we poked our head above it a few times, it couldn't get it, and the stock really was very even with the buyers and sellers for the rest of the day. So, the machine found it because of the algorithm, and the stock met the specific window filters in the alert set. But there really was no statistical advantage looking at this chart and a reason to jump right in. Now, stock like this and having that tight stop like that, obviously that's what keeps us safe. And so had we decided to jump right in with the AI, there wasn't a lot of pain to be felt there. Now I set this up here on Holly to look at everything as a risk $100 per trade. And that's why you see these max profit numbers like this, because I'm share sizing based on if I was risking $100 on that stop. So it was never a trade that looked like it was going to develop on the short side whatsoever. And even on the long side, we got up here over $4 a couple of times, but it just didn't seem to be able to hold that. All right. So just a trade that wasn't going to work from the get go. Now we can take a trade that worked and maybe took a little time to set up here. So let's take a look here at Z. And we get that original signal here at 12 after the hour on 10 o'clock. 86.57 is that original signal. Okay. And she gives us a nice wide stop down here of 85.39. Okay. So really, really big stop, which equals a smaller share size here. So 85 shares would have been what you'd been taking to risk $100 based on the stop. And that's on the assumption you get the fill at 86.57. So nice wide stop as far as the day trade goes. But we top tick on this candle. However, we never really get into any trouble on that trade. We stay range bound for quite a while here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 15-minute bars before we start to break here. What we can see here is that Holly got into the money early, but her algo for profit save didn't grab it right then. She felt that she could try to press on, and she was correct. She kept coming and trending up still all the same, right up until this candle where she decides to take that profit save. But again, she wasn't going to let a winner turn to a loser, so that trailing stop had finally kicked in and kicked her out. However, had we taken this trade, there was plenty of time to get a decent entry in and around the ballpark that Holly made that entry. And let's see, so she enters this candle, we have this candle and this candle to make a decision. And then we're in the money for all these candles here. And, that's no short amount of time as far as a day trade goes. All right. And we could say to ourselves, let's just pretend that we took 150 shares for the lot. Okay. We could have sold that 150 anywhere in these candles here, half that lot, satisfy the demon of greed. Okay. And then satisfy the demon of fear, saying that if nothing else, I got a few dollars here. And we could take that stop and we could move it up to a break even stop that's here. And while that stop might have got us out, we'd walked away with a little bit of that money that's right there. Now, it turns out that this happened to be a risk on kind of day for Zillow Group, and kind of bucking the trend of the market overall. We're looking at a NASDAQ stock. I more look at the SPY as far as guidance goes. SPY is pretty tech heavy at this point. But we can see that on the 15-minute chart here on the SPY. All right. When we got that big sell off here for about 45 minutes, she just took one candle down and that was it. She found her bottom again. She never took out that low from way back here. and she never came close to the low of the candle that we entered on, and never looked back again for the rest of the day. So, there's more than one way to manage a trade, and that's why having a trading plan is so important. Holly's created as an algorithm, not based on any specific day trading plan, if you will. And that's what separates a trader from someone who's just going to follow things. So it's great to have a virtual assistant like Holly. It's great to have the best scans in the world. Whoever you're using, hopefully it's us, of course. But if you can't manage that risk, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a reason why your stop is where it is, if you don't have a reason to get out of the trade, you could be up $1,000 in a trade and let that turn around. And if you got up $1,000 in 100 trades in a row and you let 90 of them turn around to go to the red, what does that mean then? You don't have a trading plan. You don't know how to manage that. So, decent alert there for Holly on Zillow Group. On a dollar basis, up a little over $1.50. That's not too shabby. We come to, let's see, INVS. Now in the max profit column, we could see she did quite well here on this short at $100 on that max profit and risking $100. So a nice one-to-one risk here. And we got a timed exit on that, as a matter of fact. So that's what the algorithm back tested to. All right. Now in a moderate, she's still actually in this right now. So she closed out the trade just a couple of minutes ago, if I'm not mistaken, here on that timed exit would have been a 345. We're looking at 348 right now. So she just exited that trade in the conservative mode. All right. And she stayed in the money the entire day. It was a good signal here. We can see that got like a rounding top there, if you will, on a gap down as it was anyways. All right. And we could also say that this set up as a bear flag a little bit here. So, we'd move down here. All right. She started to buck that trend and then right back down. And we could even say the same thing here. Bear flag being, this move up and these moves down here coming back down again for us. So man and machine, that's where I like to go with Holly. She's best managed together with you. Take a look around the horn around here, and something else to note in this choppy mess, yesterday was all longs and she got beat up pretty bad. While there's a few trades that you certainly could have eked out some wins on managing those trades on your own, top two trades, long and a short here. All right. And that's the kind of market we're in. Choppy, pick your direction. You can make money both ways. Volume doesn't lie, SSL. Another, nope, not a short. I'm sorry, a long here. All right. And it was a late day alert. And just wasn't a whole lot going on this here from the long side. We can see we never get close to the stop here, but only an hour into the trade, she put a little money in here after a few 15-minute bars, but it's tough. It's a tough crowd right now. Market's selling off, going into the close real heavy, and then this is holding well. So the next thing we could say to ourselves is, well, what if we want to look for setups for the next day? Well, how are these alerts setting up going into the next day? There's a catalyst here that made this alert, right? So is that catalyst still exist for the next day? We can certainly set a price alert, right? We know that whole numbers are a psychological number. We can see that we could not push through 19 today. Okay. We're nowhere near a lifetime high. All right. 60.80 is that lifetime high. We're going all the way back to January. So we're nowhere near any resistance whatsoever. The closest resistance is back here in end of April, beginning of May, and beginning of June. All right. Even if we zoom out some more, we're not really finding much resistance right up until we get into that $22 range or so right there, going back to 2020. All right. Before the big roll off and sell off of coronavirus. So, taking a while for the stock to come back, but all the same, we could say to ourselves, okay, the market's selling off pretty decently again here at the end on those 15-minute bars. This is not following suit. Had a little trouble right here at 19, breaking back through after it done it once. So we could set ourselves a price alert and we could label it Holly next day. All right, and put in a date if we want, 9:30. Not 2020, we're not going back in time. And there we have it. And we have something set up for the next day for us too. So something to carry us into that next day, giving us a possible quality setup that may still have that catalyst, that trigger that happened here. So we can see here, pretty good volume there yesterday, decent volume again here today, and it looks like the stock has, over the last 20 days or so, has had decent volume here. All right, so it's picked up from the previous month before that. All right, and again, so a lot of the stuff that we do is data interpretation. And again, no matter how you're looking at the market, how you're scanning, what you see, I may not see. What I see, you may not see. And that's kind of how that goes. So, uh, you know, stock that was super active today and had a huge max profit here. We can see at 202 profit save. And moderate profit's going to show that it became a stop out at some point. All right. And cuts like a knife with BBBY. So we get the original alert here. She gets into this money early and she runs out on a profit save. Now, it was again a very tight stop that's on this, and those tight stops are going to cause us to look at higher share lots. So 484 on that share lot. Okay. And so again, we've gotten into that money down here at the max column. Let's just say that for argument's sake that we did not get a fill at 1719. All right. And let's say that maybe our max profit was at 180 on a realistic fill. Again, we sell half that lot somewhere towards when we get into that 150 160 range. We move that stop loss to break even, or maybe just above break even, somewhere in there. How are we going to manage that trade? How are you going to manage that trade? That has to be a question you ask yourself as a trader. So I think that really going to cover it for Holly here today. Mixed bag from her for sure. But the two ways I like to look at it is, where are we finishing on the moderate profit on the day, and where were the max profits on this today? And we've got one, two, three, four. I'm going with anything above $50 on the max profit. Four, five. We'll cut that one out because it's the bottom of $50. So, five out of the 11 trades, there definitely was money on that table for us to have taken in the conservative mode of max profit. Okay. And some of them, we could have certainly seen more alpha with the risk on spread, Zillow Group being one of them. The max profit was 79 in that conservative spread. However, in moderate, it continued to take off, continue to work. And so 153 sitting at that moderate profit now. And moderate just means that we're holding it to the end of the day. We're not closing for any other reason than the market's closing. So if you have specific questions on Holly, please fire them away, or with any other kind of scan or building or anything like that. Like I said, it's an open forum. I'm a little sad. There's a very small crowd in here today. So not quite the pop that I thought we might have after seeing a whole 30 people in here yesterday for this. But again, open forum, fire away the questions. All topics related to trade ideas are on the table for anybody that wants to fire away out there. And give you all a second here. See if anybody likes to chime in anything. And of course, that questions panel on YouTube is where you're gonna fire away those questions for me. So just letting a little dead air time happen there. I don't want anybody going to sleep on me. I want to lose the few people that I actually do have here. So all right, doesn't look like anybody has any specific questions here. Again, please interrupt me if you do. And I discussed earlier, I was thinking about getting an STNG. I said I wouldn't chase though, and I'm glad I didn't. I still think it looks like a nice setup going into tomorrow, but the way the market's been, um, just didn't think it was something to get in way outside of where I had that price alert set. And unfortunately, I wasn't here when this price alert went off, or well, I was here for part of it, and I wasn't paying attention when it went off, and I wasn't here when it was there. So, thou shall not chase, thou shall have a stop loss. Those are our big commandments. Did I look at RCAT? Nope, I did not look at RCAT, but let's look at it now. I also, for anybody that's new and has never been in any kind of Q&A with me, I do not like smaller price stocks that move real fast. I especially don't like them if there's any spread whatsoever in them, more than 2 cents. And I don't like if they have massive ranges as a low price stock. It's just not what I trade. It's not what I like. So I don't know what this was doing earlier, but I mean, let's see. So we opened at 320 ish, moved all the way up to 378. So yeah, this is something I wouldn't be paying a whole lot of mind to unless it comes through Barry's option scanner, since that is just it has done me okay as far as a day trading scan goes. I like slower moving things. I like things that look like they're setting up in the coming in days. You've got something like this. Today it's taken a real shot on volume down compared to what it's be and or where it's been, and to say it's taken a real downtick in volume and still traded 15.5 million shares. That candle back here. I mean, I would traded over probably 100 million shares that day. 26 million in the float, so we know that thing can turn on a dime for sure. So no, I didn't look at it today. But made this big initial move here after the open, and buyers and sellers got equal for a long time, it looks like. And the sellers kind of just chipping away at it, chipping away at it, chipping away at it. What a software publisher. So yep, not my cup of tea in trading, but I know plenty of people that they do well on those. So Holly Long, I'm not sure what you mean by Holly Long. She had longs and shorts. Zillow was a long, OPRX was a long. OPRX got in the money just for a very short period of time on the moderate spread. It's still hanging in there as we come into the close. But she made the open in that first 15 minutes here. So let's see, at 9:40 and 2 seconds, she made that entry there, 85.64. She put a stop in there at 83.46. So pretty wide stop. With those higher price stocks makes sense, of course. And she's only in that money for a couple of minutes in moderate. She came down. She never got stopped, but she came and rode that stop for a little bit there before a late day move up. And again, you take a look. Today being a gap and go like that, it's a hefty gap to look at. 14% is nothing to sneeze at. That it's sitting, around its gap price, if you will, not much up above that. So 12% or something like that. Maybe it gapped up, sitting at 14% change from close, or almost 15% change from close. But once again, things we can say to ourselves are these things here. We're at 85 and change, sitting right near 86. We've taken out the lifetime high here. Okay. So that's strong. We had a strong gap. It came down, it tested the opening range. It never broke that opening range. Did all of that. It's in the NASDAQ, super tech heavy, and the net roll off and rollover in the NASDAQ hasn't really affected it. NAS is only down 45 points right now. So not a huge sell off. And that all the same, it's weak, and it's been weak, and that's held strong. And then going into the close, it really fell off the cliff here at going off the close into the SPY. And this did not necessarily fall off the cliff, didn't close as strong as you might like. But so all the same, we take a look here, and this might be something worth setting a price alert up there again. And that's how I would be looking at Holly personally right now, getting those into the getting those into quality setups going into the next day. Sorry, reading a few questions here. Multi-day, you mean? Well, yeah, that's what I mean by multi-day. How that's something that would interest me for multi-day. Now it's out of the price range of stocks that I personally like to trade. I like to keep it 30 bucks and under, generally speaking. But like I said, massive gap up. We held that gap the whole day, never came down, and I'm drawing it on the stop line, but the stop line just happens to be there. That's where the opening range was essentially, and we never came down and actually tested it. We never banged on that door. So, that looks like it might be something that's setting up into the next day. And like I said, it held strong here. We're now a couple minutes past the close, or a minute past the close. I'm sorry. So that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm thinking of when I'm taking a look at Holly and into multiple days. And yes, we are working on a multiple day AI position. I don't really know much about it. I know that some of my colleagues are taking data from Holly on a regular basis and putting it into some data tables, and how that's going to work out into creating that, I'm not sure. But just always showing that we're working on things here. We're never sitting idle. We're always, always, always trying to come with something here. And let's not kid ourselves. Let's bring up major indexes here and take a look. While we're not exactly terribly far off all-time highs, it's been a grind getting up here. Um, it's been a heavy grind. That's all there is to it. All right. I tease a little bit. I like to call it a leapfrog pattern almost. What we've done here, going back. So, leap and down, leap and down, leap and down. This was a bigger leap and then a down, and a leap and a down, a leap and a down, a leap and a down. Are we changing directions here now? We'll see. That's where we sit now. You know, the pattern would be up here again. We're hanging down here now. So the other thing that I like to point out that we've done now, and I will cede to this, I am neither bearish nor bullish. I just look at charts. I play the chart. I don't play the game. I'm a bear or a bull. But if we look at a position in 20-day range, so this line here is the low of 20 days. We can see that this has made basically nice steps up for a very long time. And this is the first time it's really broken back down that line since it attempted to do it right there. And even I wouldn't call that much of a break. So it's been a long time since we broke that. Is that a change in direction? I don't know. We tested down here into the 420 range. Would that be absurd? Absolutely not. We haven't had a real sell off in well over a year, to be honest. So again, I'm just going to play what rolls in front of us. Thoughts on DMYI, merger to IO and Q is tomorrow. Let's see, DMYI. I'm guessing they'll have a ticker change with this tomorrow. My thoughts are I know nothing about the stock, so I don't like that. That I can tell you right now. We can see it came all the way down here and tested that level again. So my thoughts on it are stay away. Personally, my personal thought is I'd stay right away from that. There's nothing about that that interests me whatsoever. The things that I'll look at specifically with this is, first off, I don't know what bag holders you might have from back here still. So what I always like to do is my rays of sunshine. You've got supply up here, and it's going to meet demand, and it met demand, and it met demand, and it met demand, and it met demand. Now you're telling me there's a merger and news and all those things like that. That just sounds like a messy combination for me to stay away from that chart. On top of, now what bag holders have you created here? And crushing it down there. And I'm not sure what IONQ is. Let's take a look at that. IONQ. So these guys are getting crushed together. Okay, I guess that's a ticker that'll become tomorrow. I'm guessing that's what you mean, that'll become that ticker tomorrow. So that's my thought on DMYI. Stay right away from it. There's nothing, unless you have a fundamental reason that you're into it. It's something you've been tracking. That's all I got as far as that goes. Anybody in the questions panel here? I'm getting chimed in from some of the guys that they say that it looks fuzzy on their end. When I look YouTube here, looks okay on my end here. I wonder. Clean for me. All right. I'm not sure then. It's just a little internal conversation. So, like I said, some of these are telling me that some of the guys I work with tell me that it looks a little blurry for them. So again, open forum here. I see we've jumped the numbers to 16. I don't know how many of those are padded numbers for me. Quantum computer play. Oh, okay. Yeah, quantum computer play. Uh, you know, a year and a half ago, I was really, really big, especially leading into Corona. That was it was a sector, it was an area that was very, very big to me. A lot of fake outs now. I feel like in that. So I kind of, like I said yesterday, and I was talking about this, a few different support sessions that I've done, and this evening scan that I use here. This is where I find a lot of strength into the sections or sectors, excuse me. For 10 days or so in a row, it was all natural gas, banks, and some shippers. Nat gas was, at the top of the pack. Banks were kind of the middle of the pack. The shippers were at the bottom of the pack, but all the same, they were all breaking out of 20-day ranges. And so it's kind of been where my attention is drawn to. I've been looking at the scan for quite a while now, let's say 2 years ish or so. I've been running the scan and some similar ones like this in the aftermarket. And there was a time where it was showing me nothing but custom computing, semiconductors, so on and so forth. So I kind of let this be a bit of a barometer for me as far as the data that's coming in, and match that up with what I do here. I have a sector analysis list, so I'm bringing that over here, and you know look at these different positions and ranges in this. Change 5 days, position in the yearly range, and that's kind of what I do. Everything in life, I feel like is a puzzle. This is no different. There's a lot of pieces to it, how we're putting them together. So I pound the table on that. This is an open forum, so please, fire away questions if we have. I'm also going to play with my resolution here a little bit and see if that changes anything. See what happens here. So please, jump away on those questions for me, guys and gals. Uh, Not sure what that's going to look like here, if that makes anything look a little better for everyone. If anybody likes to chime in here, I can move things around if necessary. Shrink Holly a little bit. And shrink these alert windows a little bit. Shrink up the charts a little bit. Let's bring this over. That's not displaying all the data I like now. So sorry, you're all getting a little bit of learning curve with me while I sort this as a different way that I'm broadcasting than what we normally do in our Q&As at noon. And again, like I said, open forum, so please fire away the questions for me here. It's much better content when you're helping me create the content instead of me rambling on. So if nothing else, I'll keep my eye on this questions panel here, of course. We can bring over, I'm going to pop out my price alerts window here and bring that over. And so these were things that I was looking at today, what I felt like might have been some good setups coming into the day. Some I've traded recently or some I've had my eye on. And what I found today was sitting on my hands was the best choice, because everything that I was interested in either faked out on me or it was just a little more whippy than I care for. So let's go, for example, go here. You can see on the daily chart, big topping tail now. And, the thing was all over the place. It's just not what I like to trade. Um, I had an alert that was here. My alert actually started off down here. And it just never gave me the confidence that I was looking for to try to get into this. I really did think it was going to take out the high from the other day. I guess that's let's see, Wednesday, Tuesday, and it did end up doing that, but just gave it right back. So it just never set up in a way that I was comfortable with for how I would share size and where I would stick my stop. I'm too big of a risk for that reward. And it was the same thing with AMTX. This is something I've been tracking for a long time. Pattern, I really like this pattern here. I've probably been watching it since back here. Um, Saw it was gapping up this morning, but then again, the same thing. I'm not going to chase that gap up. It was way extended off these moving averages here, and by the time it came and set up here, I just wasn't confident that it would get back above this range. And while it did, I just didn't feel comfortable chasing that there. So I had a plan. I had my trading plan. The way I share size, the way I would risk, it just determined that I was not going to end up entering that trade today. So, all across the board, that was a lot of the same theme. LTHM, I was all set to pull the trigger here at about 23.20. It shot up. I'm like, well, I'm not going to grab that. And then I started, I see it doing this, and it just wasn't worth it. On top of that, as I said, I like to look at the sectors here. So we pull this back over. LAC, which is, the sector that you want to look at for this, or LIT, I'm sorry. LAC is another lithium play. Um, the same kind of thing here. Now, the range of the bars aren't the same, but the same kind of concept. This massive gap up starts to fade back into these moving averages, and there's just no real strength again afterwards after that gap up. So, uh, market overall weak. And that sector ended up weak even off that gap up. So held the gap, but started to fill into that gap at the end of the day here as well. The reason why I go over some things like this is because there's a lot of people. I see emails come in, and I'm a struggling trader. I need help to learn how to trade. Teaching trading, it's not an easy thing to do. First off, we really can't do it ourselves. We're not licensed to do it. But I can't tell you how to risk your money. I'm not willing to tell you how to risk your money. That's why you have to figure those things out on your own. I see. Let's see. How hard would it be for an individual day trade stock that are actually growth stocks, in your opinion? How much research would a person need to do before a trade? How hard would it be for an individual to day trade stocks? Again, I'd say be, more or less part of your day trading plan. Um, it comes down to how you're share sizing, regardless if you're doing it based on um, fundamentals or technicals or combination of both. What are your catalysts? What makes you believe that that chart is going up or down? That's where I throw it back to you, and that I throw your question back with those questions. But by being able to answer those questions is how you can decide how something in the growth area would work for you. Mostly I would say with growth stocks. Probably looking at things with market caps that are going to move in above the real small stuff. Let's say above 5 billion, above 7 billion market cap, you're going to want to look at. um, that would be my 2 cents in that. um, what are you defining as growth specifically? But I would tailor the scan around that. I'd tailor a scan around something like that. Maybe EPS, your revenue, your debt, things like that. If you're looking at growth stocks, you're going to want to look at stocks that probably have healthy balance sheets. And as a matter of fact, share a scan with you here if you don't have it already. Revenue growth fishing that Andy did. This might be something that you find of interest. You open up the configure of this, take a look, see what you think, what you do or do not think on that, and how that looks and how that works for you there. So That's for everybody that's in the channel here. Numbers have fallen off the cliff again on me here. So, but you go right ahead and, download that scan, make sure you save it to the cloud, save it locally, however you want to do that, and take a look. And I think that would be a good spot to look at some growth type stocks. And if nothing else, it could give you a template for building another one or two scans, how you want to rearrange those things. And those would be the things that I point out to you. So, seeing a message come in from someone here about Grom. Well, we'll see. I mean, after hours is a different animal here, but you got that to get through now. So, you're looking at that next top, though. So again, we're at 4:17 Eastern. Open forum. So if you guys got questions, please pile them. Like I said, I prefer it when you're asking questions. That's why I do what I do. As far as evening scanning, you know, I like to put these different things into a my like symbol list here on this top list, and so I'm tracking these things. Some of these things for a few days, and some of them get by me, and they end up having been good trades that I didn't take. It kind of is what it is. But I like to narrow down to more quality setups. And I'm not looking at growth necessarily like that, but my idea behind it is I like to look at things so I have a tentative idea of what I'm going to do with that trade. And this way I'm not at the last second, something pops up and it's like, well, how am I share sizing, and what am I going to manage to the upside, and where's my stop, and things like that. Anything that's on this list here in my liked, I've looked at the stock. I have kind of a tentative idea of what I'm going to do with it if I get into it. So, as I go into the trade, I might be adjusting things, a few cents here or there, a time frame, something like that. But, I've already started to develop a plan in my head for a lot of these trades or potential trades before I even get into it. So, um, I'm not as quick on my feet as some other traders are. That's all there is to it. Someone like Barry, what he does is magic. That's all I can say. I aspire to be able to do something like that, but I realize that that's not my bag. That's not my cup of tea, and that's why things are the way they are for me. And that's why I trade the way I trade. So again, we're moving towards the end of today's session. I won't lie, a little sad. It was less active than the last couple of days, but like I said, this is a new thing that we're doing here. So we'll press on, and hopefully the numbers will start to show up for us at some point in the not too distant future here. So, well, let's take a wrap around the horn here. Look at the some of the major ETFs. So again, UNG, that is, excuse me, looking very strong. And we'll see what that means for us here. But another very strong day with the market week overall. There's a lot to play into something like natural gas, heating seasons, and things like that, especially coming into the northern hemisphere. There's a lot more heating that has to go on in the northern hemisphere winters than the southern hemisphere winters. So we'll see how this all kind of plays out. And then, of course, politicians are going to chalk and jump in there, and we're going to regulate prices, and we're going to do things. So you try to cut that noise out as much as you can. And that's why we put our stops and we make our trades according to the plan. Silver junior miners here, just really, really ugly chart. The precious metals, there's nothing to say. We're breaking, we're breaking through lows from over a year ago now. Um, and it's just really bad for the precious metals. Um, no different here. Let's see. GDX gold miners, just as bad, if not worse, to be honest. And it's funny. Silver was something last July I really thought was, I thought it was setting up. This is before Wall Street bets or anybody gets involved in silver or anything like that. I thought silver was going to be setting up for a run. It's a precious metal. It's used in semiconductors and electronics alike, and just nothing. I mean, this channel is just bad, and it broke this channel here, only to create this channel here. So, and we call that a bear flag example. Again, just just nothing doing here. Moving right along on sectors here. It's uranium, I believe, is up next here. So same thing here, energy. Uranium stocks, a few of them were coming through my evening scan last week. Nothing now. There's only a few of them. So not that there's a ton of uranium plays anyways. So we'll see, to go parabolic like that, obviously, things want to return to the mean. And we'll see what the next play is here. So let's continue to press on for a couple minutes here as I see nobody's still chiming in. Solars, TAN, another one of those ones that had a huge run up for months and months and months. And, many of the bigger solar names were really big beneficiaries of it. We got kind of topped out up here, and we've been in a range ever since then, kind of in no man's land. Doesn't know which way it wants to go. No, we're not. We're not mobile, so there's no 5G technology for us to really follow. As far as mobile goes, there's the web version that we have. So, but because we're primarily a Windows desktop app, that's not something that we really have to worry about currently, anyways. Some would argue about us having a mobile app, wanting one. Don't rule anything out, but it's not something we're currently working on now. So there's GDX and SIL. There's no real reason to look at those. They don't look any different than the junior versions of those, except they probably even look a little worse, to be quite honest. Large cap China, um, not looking so great there either. So same kind of thing, we had these kind of nice cup and handles through here before we topped out, and now you could say it's been completely the reverse here over and over again. So who's going to take the baton, who's going to lead the pack. That's how bull markets stay alive, is passing that baton sector to sector to sector. If this bull market's to continue, someone's got to step up. We'll see what that may or may not be. How do I limit the number of results in a top list? So this is what you can do for limiting the results in the top list. First, decide what you want to see, what's most important to you, and that's going to be your server sort. Okay. So let's come to right click, and let's first say I only want 100 symbols in the top list, for example. So we right click, time frame, set record count, and we set that record count. And that's the max amount of stocks that can come through. So right now I have that set at 150. Let me change that to 100. All right. It doesn't really matter for me on that list too much because I'm not usually have too many. I'm usually under 100 on that list anyways. We press OK. So now 100 is the max that come through there. But let's say that 200 stocks want to be on this list. Well, what's the top 100 I want to see? So we right click again and we come to configure, and we're going to come to sort. And this is where the server is going to pull from first and populate the data this way. So right now I'm sorting on change from close percent. All right. Do you want to sort on gap? Do you want to sort on volume? Do you want to sort on change from open? And, what you're going to see in here will be what you have in your columns and what you have in your Windows specific filters options here. Okay. If you want to add something else from sort, you come to search and you can go to whatever you want to look for, put call ratio, gap, gap bars, gap percent, consecutive candles, change in different levels, distances from VWAPs, so on and so forth. When you decide what you want to sort on, you'll click it and you go sort by. And that'll come over here into this. So I'm going to click sort by. All right. And now it brings me to the sort tab automatically. We can see change from previous day, dollars is what we're sorting on. And now this list will populate the top 100 stocks that fit the criteria of change from previous days on the sort like that. That's not the end though. Now that's the server sort. Now we have our display sort to look at. And that'll be what we double click here on these different columns here. And so because I like change from close, I'm server sorting it from change from close. Now I'm display sorting it change from close as well. Last piece of the puzzle that we'll look at is a right click, and we're going to go to properties, and we're going to go to select colors, and my color scheme is also set up from change from close percent. That's where I originally started. I was just using the other one as an example. I didn't want to change it. I wanted to leave it what I like it at. But then that's how this is color scheming too, so that my stocks with the highest percent change from close are going to be the darkest green, and my lowest change from close going negative are going to be my darkest red, and everything that falters or falls and filters in between will be these lighter shades of greens and reds and whites. And that is how you would limit a top list. Hopefully that made sense. Again, about with the 5G of the market, 5 going to be effective impact by 5G. Again, it's not affecting the data that we pull in. It's not affecting our scanning abilities at this moment. So um, there isn't any real need for us to, and I can't comment on what they're everything that development is doing. When things are starting to come towards a production side for us to test, that's when we get the news. There's all kinds of things that are going in back channels. Some of our developers, I've never actually talked to some of them. Some of them I have. So, but as far as I know right now, if there's anything going on with 5G right now, as far as trade ideas goes, I'm unaware of it. Yes, thank you. Only need like 50 or less to show up. So, all right, so that's how you're going to want to do it. So, whatever the most important is for you for those 50, whatever you're sorting on, and of course your color scheme, so on and so forth, and that's how that's going to work. So, 428, I got to run out of here. 429, I got to run out of here in a minute. So, if there's any last minute questions that are short that I can answer, gonna give it the old auction, going once, going twice, going three times here in my head. Otherwise, I'm gonna wrap it up for the day. I will be back here tomorrow at 4:30. Excuse me, at 3:30 Eastern, and every other day at 3:30 Eastern. So I will up here then. So I thank everybody that was in here for the questions, for keeping me engaged. Anything else that you need in the after hours here? Info at trade-ideas.com. Send us an email there. There's someone there, say 18 hours a day to answer things. So appreciate that. My right click is not working. You're gonna have to go into your local settings, Anna. Bring up your, bring up your settings. Let's see here. Bring up your settings, and you're gonna have to look at your devices and things like that. It's going to be something in here that you're going to have to find. There we go. I'm going to go back here, devices, and take a look in there. There'd be nothing inside trade ideas, nothing in our options or tools or anything like that that would be affecting it. So you're going to want to come in here, come to mouse, all right, and take a look in here. Like at your cursor speed, these things here, adjust mouse cursor, additional mouse options, all right. You're going to get this, and you're going to want to check this out. Pointers, pointer options, wheel, hardware. Test your hardware, perhaps. That's where that goes. So, but everything in Trade Ideas is actually, a right click, left click is, for selecting things, jumping on things. So, all right, I do have to run out of here, folks. Thank you again for the engagements, and we will catch you tomorrow, 3:30 Eastern, same bat time, same bat channel. Take care, everybody. Bye.